You're watching Halenville Live with Fruitcake Tony. Woo!
All right, and we are in fact live. Hey, it is Wednesday, just a couple of minutes after 9. Not to keep you waiting. Fruitcake Tony, Keith Campbell along. We got a special guest in here. Adam Roach is with us tonight. What's happening, Adam?
Hey, how are you?
What's going on, bro?
Everything. It's all going.
Good to see you, sir.
Yeah, great to see you guys too. It's been a while, so thanks again.
Welcome to the party, pal. Yeah,
thanks
so long. It's been a while since you've been back on.
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah.
What's new down under, Adam?
Well, pretty much lots of gigs going on now, which is great. Since I last spoke to you, well, I think everything was in lockdown. Now it's all open up, partying again, so it's going really well.
Right on, good.
So finally,
business booming for you. Business keeping you busy.
Yes, this for sure. Yeah, no, it's going back to semi-normal, I guess.
I was telling Adam backstage that I was watching a lot of his live stuff on his YouTube. Yeah, go watch his stuff on his YouTube for sure. Yeah.
Please do. It kicks ass. His posts are off the charts.
Yeah. So welcome everybody. Hope your week's going well. This is Halenville Live. We have a special guest here tonight. We're going to be talking all about this book. And it's in its second edition.
Yeah.
It's a brand new, lovely cover. And Steve is here. We'll pull some nearly impossible Van Halen trivia later. We'll give you $1 million Van Halen bucks.
Ooh.
And we'll give you tonight also, we'll give you a 1971 D quarter.
Sweet.
And $1 million Van Halen bucks that's put aside. We'll dive into that later on. We call that nearly impossible Van Halen trivia. Yeah. So yeah. And also let me say today that it's a very happy birthday to our friend Mr. David Nesdaw. It's his birthday today.
Mm-hmm.
So happy birthday, Dave. We're thinking of you, sir. We miss you.
Yep. We're thinking of him, and we're thinking of Desiree as well. We know this is a hard day for her. So everybody keep her in your prayers.
Yeah.
But everybody raise a glass for Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cheers. Happy birthday in heaven there, brother.
Happy
He's one of the great
David.
ones.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of the best ones out there. And I have to say, he was the first one to call me when I had announced that my wife had passed. You know, he's that kind of a guy. Bam, right off the bat, immediately.
Yeah.
You know, he's always out there for you. He's that kind of a kind, open soul. So love you, Dave, wherever you are, and we know
Yeah.
you're up there.
Yeah. We miss Dave. That's for
He's probably
sure.
grilling Eddie for tips.
Yeah, Dave gave me great advice about live streaming a while back that I'll never forget. I always think of him. Yeah. So, right
Yeah.
on. So, before we bring in Steve, let's see who's here tonight, Keith and Adam, with us.
Yeah.
I never cracked my chat open early. Let's boom.
Open up
All
the
right.
gates. Let the chat in the door.
All right, so we're going to start at the bottom, and there is Dan of New Jersey, and I have a special unboxing at some point today
Yeah.
from Dan of New Jersey. Good to see you, Dan.
Very
Look
nice.
forward to opening that.
Mm-hmm.
Monique is here. Good to see her. Hello,
Hi,
ma'am.
Monique.
Right on. Good to see you. Ryan Hall is in the house. Good to see Ryan. Ed
Ryan, what's
DeBrill,
going on?
what's up,
What's going on,
Ed?
Ed? Yeah.
Right on. And
Mhm.
there is Andy Carson in the house. Brother man, brother man.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Andy.
scroll up. Guys, let's see. Christopher Live Sova is right there. What's happening, bro?
We have to say happy anniversary to him and his little lady,
Yes.
Cindy Lou.
That's right. Happy anniversary, dude.
Yeah.
Right on, Chris. You rock, bro. Yeah. Right on. Okay, I'm going to still scroll up. Patty Dill is here. Good to see Patty.
Hi, Patty. How you doing, sweetheart?
All
She
right.
was the first one on the board tonight, too.
All right, I see Papa Blue is here. Good to see him. He's always near the top. I'm going to scroll
Hold on,
down. If you're just getting here, please say hello. Jeff K is here. I see there's Jay Turner in the house.
Jay,
Spencer Cron. Good to see Spencer.
Spencer.
Hadn't seen you in a
Yeah.
while, dude.
It's been
Yeah,
a while
man.
with him, yeah. Good.
Right on, bro. All right. So let's bring in our very special guest. It's great to see him. It's always great to have him back. Yeah, the godfather of Show Me Your Pick, the author of this great book. Yes, sir. Right on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He did some great work here. This is
Yeah.
a pillar. And if you're watching this and you don't have this book, shame on you. Get it now.
Yeah.
And I'm still reading.
There you go.
If-
Hey, I'm on my second and third read, actually.
You will be.
Yeah.
You will be.
Yeah.
Yes,
You'll go
you
back
will.
and reread all different stuff. I've
sure.
read chapters over and over again. That's
It's in
what I
its
love about
second
this book.
edition now with a different cover, lovely cover. We'll talk about it. Let's go ahead and bring Steve in, ladies and gentlemen, the great rock journalist himself, Steve Rosen. There he is.
Guys,
Steve, what's up?
how you doing, guys? How's everybody?
Hey, Steve.
Doing great, brother. Yeah.
Y'all good?
Oh yeah. Hey,
Nice.
before we start deep diving, how was NAMM this weekend?
Honestly, it was a little disappointing. You know, since COVID, it has not been what it used to be. A lot of those, those big box companies weren't there. Fender, Gibson, Marshall, none of them were there. There were a fair amount of people. I mean, if you compare it to pre-COVID NAMM shows, it was pretty empty. But I mean, there was like an undercurrent, people getting back to normalcy, as Adam talked about. The world's trying to, heal itself. So I'm hopeful that January the show will return to its normal chronology in January 2024, which is when the show normally is out here. And we'll see. So I talked to a couple of people. Got a couple fun pictures. I don't know if any of you saw them.
Yeah. Yeah, you were hanging out with Greg Bissonette, weren't you?
Yeah, Greg Bissonette, who I'd interviewed way back in the day, and an English guitar player named Terry Reid. I don't know if you guys know Terry, but he was one of the, you know, man, he was there in London in '67. You know, Clapton and Paul Kossoff and, you know, Jeff Beck and Frampton. I mean, he was one of the guys. And in fact, he auditioned for Zeppelin, and he was almost up for the Zeppelin gig. So that could have been interesting, you know, 2 guitar players in Zeppelin. But
wow.
Yeah, so I mean, so NAMM was, you know, it was fun. It was fun seeing the gear, but again, a little disappointing. You know, hopefully a return to, you know, what it was in its glory days this coming January.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see you there, Steve.
Yeah,
And your brother.
Yeah, Mick was there, and Johnny Bean, ran into Johnny again, and you know, he was fantastic. You know, a huge supporter like you guys. You know, we shot a little bit of as we were leaving. He shot a little bit of like a live video podcast,
Right.
and I don't think it's up yet, but that will be going up shortly. And yeah, it was cool. You know, it's always fun to go and look at all that gear. Yeah, I mean, it'll get better. It definitely will.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll probably be back in full swing by summer when they do Nashville.
That's entirely possible. Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
how many NAMMs you think you've been to now, Steve?
That's a good question. You know, I have passes from a lot of them, but I know that I lost the passes. You know, like a little, you know, they give you like a little plastic lanyard. You know, I mean, I'd say about 20. I mean, I started going to them probably. I can look. I mean, I want to say early '80s. And man, they were insane back then. I mean, you know, I mean, the Anaheim Convention Center, which is a monstrous place, it was just filled end to end, man, with you know, guitars and amps and keyboards and pedals, and you know, there was no DJ stuff that I can remember, which has since become huge. I mean, there was a huge room this time, you know, and yeah, it was amazing, you know, and all the endorsees were coming out, you know, so I mean, you know, in every corner, you know, in every aisle, you know, there'd be all these heavy endorsees there, you know, hawking guitars and everything. Yeah, it was very fun back in the day. But
yeah,
we'll get back there.
You've shared some of your NAMM experiences, but there is one NAMM experience that you've told us about, and yeah, on me a couple of occasions that sticks out in my mind. You happen to know which one I'm talking about, Steve?
Well, let me guess. Could it be Edward Van Halen and Moi in New Orleans? Could that be the one? Yeah.
How in the world did you end? You would have never thought. How'd that happen? I mean,
you know, first I have to tell you that I didn't even think I was going to write about it. I mean, I think, well, yeah, Edward sort of paid my way there, which was extraordinarily generous of him. And, you know, just, you know, hanging out and stuff and, you know, madly trying to scribble notes and, you know, trying to keep things straight. And I got to remember this and I got to remember that. But it was more for my own edification. I really didn't know if I was going to write about it. So I think when I came back, I think I probably reached out to the Guitar World and said, hey, you know, it's a pretty crazy time in New Orleans. I think it could be a pretty fun story. And they were up for it. And, you know, when I first started writing it, I wrote it in first person, which you're never supposed to do as a journalist. You never use the word I in any story. You know, I mean, the reality is, unless you're, I don't know, you know, Hunter Thompson or somebody heavy, nobody really cares what you have to say. So, you know, you never write in first person. But I just kind of fell into it, you know. Hey, I woke up, you know, and drove over to Edward's house, and I didn't know how else to write it. And it really came out pretty easily. It was really kind of a first draft kind of a thing. And it was just amazing. And honestly, I didn't know what the reaction would be from readers. I didn't know if they thought it was going to be hilarious, which it was. It was insanity and hilarity. Or if they thought, well, you know, yeah, so you hung out. You know, I honestly didn't know because I'd never really written a story like that before, a first-person story like that. So I was really happy when you know, Guitar World liked the story and the response, you know, and all these years later, you know, people remember that story. You know, and the other thing that I love, and those who've read the book know that Ed, as I said, and I'm pretty positive, I don't think he ever read a story that I wrote. Strangely, well, not strangely, you know, I don't think he was much of a reader anyway. So, you know, that's fair enough. And the one time, you know, he's over at my little place, and I had that story. So this is back in typewriter days, okay? So I had, I don't know, it must have been a copy, because I would have sent the original to Guitar World. And those are interesting days, because if I didn't keep a copy, you know, a carbon, which was difficult because I used to use this very old typewriter, and with the carbon and, you know, the carbon paper and the second piece of paper, you know, the keys could get really like sticky, you know, so you really had to pound to make sure the carbon copy came out. And beyond that, if I sent the original and I had no carbon, and God forbid, you know, that the original got lost, it's like, I'm fucked, you know. Thankfully, that never happened, but I always thought about that. So this must have been a copy I had lying on my little work table in my little living room area there. And I wanted Ed to read it, you know. I don't think we were long after coming back from the trip. So I thought, oh, you know, maybe he'd like to read it. So I give it to him. And again, those of you who know the story, you know, one of the first lines is when I go to Ed, and he's got that can of Schlitz in his hand. And I had written, you know, and I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but, you know, Edward holding the can of Schlitz, you know, the gold and blue can. And Ed's, you know, so Ed's looking at it. He goes, silver and blue. I go, excuse me? He goes, silver and blue. I go, he goes, the can was silver and blue. So,
yeah, the bulk. It's the malt liquor bulk.
Like, yeah. I'm thinking, oh my God. The one time I have him read something, in the first paragraph, I screw it up, you know. But it's just so funny that is what he keyed on. You know, not the fact that I wrote about him drinking a beer at 7 o'clock in the morning, or, you know, the other madness that went on. But, you know, it was such a perfect, sublime kind of a moment, you know, for him to, you know, be captivated by the description of the beer can, you know. But yeah, that was an amazing time, man. That was the thick of the friendship, you know. I mean, it was just amazing to be around him. I mean, it really was, you know. And you know, there's a couple parts that I left out. You know, so there's one part, and I may have talked about it a little bit. So we're walking across the parking lot. I can't remember where we were going. I think we're going to like a dinner for Ed or something. And again, I don't have the story in front of me, so if I'm getting my facts wrong, forgive me. But I think Nugent is there, and Brian May. There's a couple other kind of heavy guitar players, you know, and they're kind of walking in front with Ed, and I'm kind of walking behind, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? why? How am I possibly going to be part of the company of these unbelievable guitar players? And I always thought like that, I always overthought everything. And I thought, Ed doesn't want me tagging along. I mean, he's hanging with these guys, so I'm kind of hanging back. And I don't think I wrote about this. But since you're the guys and you guys have all been there, I'll bring this out to you guys. So
Right.
Ed kind of falls back and he comes in and he puts his arm around me. He goes, man, I'm kind of, it was just an utter insecurity about being around these unbelievably gifted people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I wanted to be part of that. And I was there with Edward, but, I also felt removed. So he comes, and man, it's all, I don't know what he said, but all he had to do is put his arm around me, and he kind of scooted me up there. And, that's the kind of thing he did. Hanging out with Edward was unbelievable. And I was lucky. I was at the right place. On the other side of that scale, I'd worked really hard in my life to be a journalist of some merit, and write for magazines. And, so, do you make your own luck in life? I mean, I don't know. I think part of that's true. But as amazing as it was being around him, it was really hard. I mean, especially if he was with somebody else, especially if I just introduced him to Blackmore or Les Paul or Billy Gibbons, and I'd met those people,
Mm-hmm.
but it was hard. And I talk about being invisible, and it was a tough thing. It wasn't always an easy thing. So yeah, that's kind of the other side of that New Orleans story. I mean, it was an amazing experience. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. But there were moments that were hard, when you were around Edward, because he was who he was. He never tried to overshadow you or be this huge person, but that's just who he was.
Yeah. Right. Before we deep dive into it, let me say, Steve, I was very pleased to hear that the books had sold out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us, if you would, a little bit about this new cover.
So right after I did the Eddie Trunk show, and I don't know if any of you guys heard the Eddie Trunk show, that was really amazing. I mean, Eddie is a pretty heavy guy, and actually another, and I forget his name, and forgive me if you're listening, but somebody else who bought the book ran into Eddie Trunk. I didn't know him. I knew of Eddie, of course, but I never met him. We'd never spoken.
Wow.
Ran into Eddie somewhere, and the copy of the book that this guy bought for himself, he gave to Eddie. And it was just an unbelievably magnanimous thing to do. And so I had reached out to Eddie a couple times. Hey, Eddie, Steve Rosen, I wrote the book, and I hope you're digging it. I never heard back. There was it was like a tribute to Ronnie Dio. This was many, many months ago, out in sort of like the San Fernando Valley out here in California. And Eddie was there. So I drove there specifically to try and meet Eddie. So it was a long drive. I live in Orange County, California, in Disneyland. Driving to San Fernando was like, I don't know, man. It was like 80 miles. It was pretty far. So, I was determined to meet Eddie Trunk. So I'm there, and I see him walk in. So he's surrounded by people, and I kind of wait, and I have the book. I go, hi, Eddie, Steve Rosen, you got the book? He goes, oh, yeah, man, I haven't started it yet, but I want to read it. I go, oh, great, man, I'd love to be on your show. I didn't want to push it, So look, man, to try to make a long story short, eventually Eddie read the book. Actually, I think he read about half of it, which he explained before the show. And I was on the show, and it was amazing. The next day, literally, I think I sold close to 100 books in like the next 2 days, which is all
Right
the books
on.
I had left. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. So originally I was going to keep the same photo, and I thought, nah, it's a second edition. Let's do something different. So that was just another amazing photo that I had from Niels Lozauer. You know, it just kind of, you know, captured Edward in a, you know, not somber, but introspective, right? You know, he's thinking about something, and I just loved the picture. It was just so, I don't know, it was just so solemn. It was just, I don't know, I just thought it was perfect. And the fact that there isn't a picture of the guitar and it's just his portrait on the cover, I thought that was different. And of course, the photo on the back is the original version of that photo, which is a color. And then there's I had collected some more quotes by them from some guitar players, and I put those up there. I was going to add some text, you know, maybe another little chapter that didn't make it in, but it just didn't feel right. It would have made the book exceedingly long, and the way that book software works is it's like a domino. You know, if one domino falls in front, all the dominoes behind it fall down. So if this chapter were to go in, you know, anywhere before the ending of the book, every chapter, you know, you had to paginate and you had to do a thing, and you know, it just would have been a lot of work. So the text is identical. I did take out a few names from the thank you page because a couple of people I thought were cool turned out to be assholes, and I'd love to tell you their names, but I'm not going to do that. And I added 3 photos, which I think you'll dig when you see them. You know, they kind of add to the story. They are things that I talk about in the book. But yeah, man, selling out was it was just an amazing feeling. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine what that is. You know, yeah, it just felt amazing.
That's great to hear, Steve. That is so great to hear. You can go to TONECHASERbook.com.
Yeah.
Easy enough right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and while we're here, Tony,
yeah.
I'm sorry. So that is my new website, which was designed literally in 2 days by Ron Brahe, he's just another one of these guys who, you know, he likes what I do, and he was willing to devote of his time and his energy and his expertise, and he put that page together. And he works with some pretty heavy people. He's done web pages for some pretty heavy musicians, and he was just, you know, willing to devote his time. And Chris Bello. Chris is another major supporter. Chris does all my social media stuff and gets all the stuff up on my Instagram and my Facebook pages, puts stuff up on YouTube because I'm so incapable of doing that stuff. And while we're here, I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't point to this guy right there, Adam Roach, my buddy from Down Under, who, my God, it's like, Adam, did you get the segment that I said? Adam, did I do the WeTransfer thing right, man? And I can't even send a WeTransfer file properly, you know, man. He's on the phone with me, and I'm, you know, like, Adam, I'm 3 seconds away from tossing my phone out the window, and the guy's patient with me. And man, he's just been so helpful. Adam is also my distributor, my de facto distributor for Australia. People have bought the books from me from Australia. Shipping for Australia has gotten really expensive. I really cringe when I tell people, it's like, I don't know, man. it's like $75 or $80. I mean, it's a lot of money. And I feel bad, man. You know, I wish it was $10 to send books to Australia.
Yeah.
It's not.
Let's give the kids a plug real quick, Steve, before we turn it over to Adam there about these read-alongs. It's $47 US, guys. 85 up in Canada, $92 in the UK, 100 in all of Europe, and 102 in Australia.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm glad you did that, Tony. So, the Canada price is correct. So on the website, you can buy books domestically or in Canada. You can't buy books Australia, Europe, or the rest of the world on the website. Again, because the postage was just so much. I didn't want to do that. So if you're in Australia, you can now get the book from Adam. He'll ship the book from Australia. I don't know what that postage is, but it's got to be, you know, maybe Adam can fill that in. But it's going to be a hell of a lot less than the, you know, whatever that is, $80 or $75. And I also have somebody in Europe, the Netherlands, Michelle Schenkel, heavy, you know, Van Halen guy and a supporter. So all the European buyers can go through Adam. You know, well, I'm really happy. You know, I trust these guys completely, and they're amazing. So, you know,
those of you in Australia, you'll find Adam's links down below. Adam's links are always here. So
And for anybody who's watching in Europe, go to Michelle Schenkel. He used to run a magazine called 5150, which was an official Van Halen magazine, and he got to meet Eddie and the band multiple times and be in the studio. And he's got the collection of all collections, and he's the person that I'm so thankful you went to. It was smart, extremely smart to go directly to him.
He's a hardcore Van Halen guy for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
crazy. So
insane the amount of stuff that he has, but
yeah,
he's keeping himself busy from what I've been keeping in contact with him about, you know, on distribution over there.
Yeah,
everybody's wanting the book.
Michelle has, I think he's placed like 4 or 5 orders from me, you know, from multiple copies of books. It's amazing. So obviously it's working out for everybody in Europe and working out for Michelle. So very happy to put that together. Absolutely.
Yeah, I must say they're getting in Australia as well. Like the word is getting around. That's
great.
It's still here, but it's definitely all happening, and there's a big order coming out real soon.
That's great. So, you know, I had in fact, let me. So you know, whenever I would send something, whenever you send something internationally, you know, you've got to fill out customs forms. So if I were to look through here, I would say probably the UK, Canada, and then maybe Australia in terms of, you know, international fans. I mean, I was really actually blown away by how many fans there were in Australia. I mean, not really, but, you know, I mean, I knew they were big there. I didn't know how many times they had toured there, but sold a fair amount of books there. So very cool.
Adam, quick question for you, Adam. Are you also distributing to Japan and Far East?
At the moment, just Australia, but there's something probably Steve and I could talk about and look at that as well. I'm not sure what you've got there.
Yeah, I guess you're a lot closer to Japan than I am, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, that's interesting.
Good point, Keith.
Yeah.
And you're also covering New Zealand as well, right, Adam?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually sold a few books to New Zealand. Kiwis, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, one of our best buddies. Come on, Andrew Walton. He hosts this show, 5150 show.
Yep.
And
that's it.
And he's waving the flag over there.
Yes, he is.
Big time.
Yeah.
You've been on the show a couple of times.
Yeah, Andrew's
Funny.
great.
Funny.
Yeah, so now there's big things happening here in
Sorry,
Australia.
guys,
Like I said,
Go ahead.
there's a lot. I guess there's probably more Van Halen tribute bands out now, since the passing of Eddie. But there's always been really big Van Halen. I know I came here 2 times. Once with Gary, another time at with Dave for the Stone Festival in 2013.
Yeah.
So
That was one of the great shows too with Dave. One of their best shows with Dave. Yeah. They were at their peak right then and there. That year they did that, and I believe a show up at Paso Robles up here in California as well. And I think those are the only 2 shows they did that year. Everything else they did in 2012.
Yeah,
and
that's
those
right.
were phenomenal shows.
Oh, it was a great show. I mean, I was up the front, right next to near Eddie, watching him. So with my daughter, it was a huge buzz.
Yeah.
Nice. Guys, I'm going to change subjects just briefly here. Ed in our chat room here reminded me that Mike Hall was the unbelievable dude who
That's who it was, yes.
Gave his book to Eddie Trunk. Mike, if you're listening, dude, I owe you.
Yeah.
Right on.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for that heads up, Ed.
Yeah, we're all too happy to see the success of this book, and knowing you for a while, Steve, and watching this book happen and come to pass and succeed. It's so great. And I'll tell you what I think about the book later on in the show. Are there any? What are people is there any one thing in the book, Steve, that you're finding that you're being asked more than other?
That's a good question. No, actually, I mean, everybody seems to find another little facet of it to focus on, which is great. I love that. I really don't receive as many questions as I do comments. The response has just been, I've talked about it before. It's just been beyond anything I could have hoped for. You're sitting there in your room and you're writing, and you write a paragraph and you go back and you read it and you think, okay, that's good, that's okay, but what about that hardcore Van Halen fan that's going to read that? How are they going to respond? And I thought about that. I thought about that all the time, which is why it was kind of difficult to finally finish the book. It's easy to rewrite and change and keep it to yourself and not let anybody read it. But, at a point in time, it had to go out there. So no, it's more people just saying, wow, man, thank you for the book. And I've been waiting a long time for the book. A couple people have asked, well, what about those parts where Ed said, don't print this or don't use that? And, my response to that is it's kind of a multi-part answer. So my first response is Edward gave me permission to record anything I wanted. Anytime, record anything you want. Secondly, you have to understand that when Ed said those things, we were in the middle, he was in the middle of Van Halen. So, he might have made those comments because some of them came before I actually began the book, and some of them came after. So if he made those comments before, he was talking about, hey, don't go print this in a magazine. If he was talking about whatever he was talking about, management or Mike or Dave or, anything. you know, Van Halen were a living, breathing entity. And for those comments, what he had just previously said to me, to have come out, if I were to print those in a magazine, I mean, that could have been pretty bad. That could have impacted the band heavily.
Well, as you say, Steve, you do overthink it just a little bit, but would he have? It, I don't think that he recorded you and you didn't know it. He recorded everything he did. You as a journalist, you are a journalist. Everywhere you go, you have a tape recorder and it's usually on. You have one on the phone in case you have a phone interview. A tape recording is part of what you do. And he said, anytime you want, it's okay. You know.
Yeah, he did say that. And then when we come to a part they didn't want, he'd say, don't use that. And so I obviously respected that. I never transgressed. I never used any of that stuff. So that's kind of the second part of the answer when people say, well, Ed said, don't use that. Why did you use that? You know, and so we come to the third part. So some of that stuff, again, came out in 84 or 83. I don't remember exactly when those comments were made, 85, 86. So now we're in 2017 and we're, you know, what is that? I can't do the math. 30 years later, whatever that is. And I begin to write the book, and a lot of that stuff became common knowledge. I think there's a lot of that stuff in the book that went infinitely deeper than any other journalist ever had. But a lot of those comments he made, you know, became common knowledge, and his feelings about band members or management or touring or guitars, whatever it was. So that's kind of my response to these people. You know, I held that for all those years, and for me not to print it in this book, it would have just been a lie. It would have been a lie to me. It would have been a lie to readers. So that's one of the things that people keyed on. You know, there was some, you know, some of the more serious guitar guys asked me some of the guitar questions. I answered those as best I could. You know, but most of it were comments, not questions. You know, people really loved the book and thank you for writing it. And you know, I came away knowing Edward better. You know, I'm reading it for a second time, which is the greatest compliment I can think of, because my favorite books, you know, John
I'm on my
Steinbeck.
third.
Oh, there you go, man, Keith. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the ultimate compliment that could be paid to an author. So,
Worth every page, brother. Worth every page.
yeah. Well, cool, man.
Yeah, we're really liking these video read-alongs too, Steve.
Yes.
Well, cool. Well, if you love those read-alongs, we got the man here who put that all together. Adam Roach suggested, hey man, what about reading a chapter in the book? And I thought, yeah, you know, do people really want to hear me reading the book? You know, I didn't know. So for fear of Adam flying over here and beating the shit out of me, I said, okay, Adam, I'll do it. No. So I sat down to read, and what I found happening was the same thing that I found happening when I was writing the book. And the result of that was all those little notes that you see. Where it's like, okay, I've written this, reader, and you've read this, but this is really the insight to what you've just read. You know, this is this guy who really knows what was going on in these note sections. So as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, well, you know what? There's more that I could say here. So I kind of go off camera, as it were, and explain what it was I just read. So it becomes sort of the oral version of the notes. And again, I didn't know how people were going to take that, but I think, people dug that,
We identify that as your writing style, Steve.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. And here's the great part about it. That explains all of the extra pages that you don't have to add here because this thing is a beast. 600 pages, people.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you want to know the reality? If I didn't add any of those notes and any of that stuff, the book would probably be 300 pages. But it's like, I don't know, something hit me. This stuff has to be in there. So, and in fact, I believe there was a 5th segment, and Chris Bello, who I mentioned before, who does all that stuff for me. After I send the raw footage and Adam gets the, whatever audio, he cuts and dices and does his magic, and then he sends it to Chris, who puts it up on YouTube. So I believe there was a 5th and final segment that went up. I'm not sure if it's up now. It was supposed to be up today.
It's up now. Yeah.
Oh, it is? Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's the closing segment. And while we're here, we have another little project that we put together. Adam, you want to talk about it? Would you like me to talk about it and bring you on?
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll say a little bit, and then you can do your bit too if you want.
Yeah, exclusive. Yeah, love exclusive.
I must say, that the read-throughs that we did were just fantastic to work on, and like Steve was saying, to get those little parts in between, having Steve read it and then go off into the other little notes as well was just, for me as an Halen fan, I'm sure everyone else as well, it's just fantastic to hear that. These new ones, just incredible. It's some of the audio, all the audio no one's heard before, and to go in with what the book, it's not really in the book, other parts that come off the book, but Steve can explain more about that. And then with the video as well, with Steve and Derek from Van Halen, is it? No.
Yeah.
Van Halen, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Fan,
Yeah.
F-A-N. Best
Yes.
Main Street is great, but Van Halen, amazing Van Halen tribute band. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so just give you an idea of what it's going to be. So it'll be Steve and Derek talking about the songs from the Greatest Hits album, which will go into Steve and Edward Van Halen talking about it from one of his interviews, followed by Derek playing part of the song. So you really got 3 different parts, and it's going to be just fantastic. I mean, just working on it, it's like, wow, and finding out these little parts that I never knew about as well, and I'm sure a lot of other people didn't know about.
Is this going to be the last one you said, Adam?
No, this is a totally new thing. The last one's up now from the read-through of chapter 8, I believe it was. This new one that we're doing is just a little bit coming from, I can't remember the chapter it was now. Do you remember, Steve?
Sorry, say it again, Adam.
The part that we're doing now, it's from the chapter, is it 58 or something?
From one extreme to the other.
Yep. That's right. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So it's just a little part from that chapter. And again, all the audio is not in the book. This is like totally separate. I think Steve's just got like one little segment, a paragraph about it in the book. But then this video is going to go for about, I'd say an hour maybe, after you put all the 5 segments together. Yeah. It's going to be a big one.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
I can't wait to everyone hear it.
Sorry, guys. So to encapsulate just a little bit. So Derek Fuller, someone I befriended. I went and saw Van Halen, and they were amazing. I'm not quite sure how the idea came to me, but I thought, how cool would it be? Let me back up. November 96. I interview Edward. It comes from the chapter From One Extreme to the Other. And I bring up the Greatest Hits Volume 1 record. And what you're not reading, because I cut it out for purposes of shortening the book, I said, Ed, give me 25 words on each of the songs on the greatest hits record. So we went through song by song, songs from the first record, Eruption, and Run with the Devil, and I'm sorry, I don't have the songs in front of me. But we went through all the 17 songs. There you go. There's a little excerpt where it would have come. Looking at the best stuff. So this next paragraph here would have been, Ed, tell me about the songs on, give me 25 words about each song. So I had this, it was a fairly long amount of text, but I just didn't put it in. It just, I thought, well, this doesn't have to go in. It's not going to detract from the story, even though I thought it was amazing. And so I remember I had that stuff. And so I go and see Van Halen, and I see Derek just playing these songs, just beautifully. So I thought, well, maybe it would be cool if I got the audio, which no one has ever heard this audio. This is world premiere virgin Steve Rosen and Edward Van Halen audio. So what if I got this audio, cut it up, or rather Adam the Butcher Roach cut this thing up into little bits. So I thought, okay, so Derek, knows the ins and outs of these Van Halen songs from a technical standpoint, from a guitar player standpoint, from a songwriter standpoint. So he could bring that to it. I could bring, kind of the historical element. We'll talk a little bit about it. Then we play the audio. Is that correct, Adam?
Yeah, that's right.
Then we take a little bit. So we're talking about Eruption. So we'd be talking about Eruption. Adam would slice in a little bit where Edward's talking about Eruption. Derek would then play, 30 seconds of Eruption. We might comment it on, when the song's done, and then go to the next track. Again, Run with the Devil.
Ain't Talking About Love.
Ain't Talking About Love. So, so I did that. And after like 18 weeks of trying to figure out fucking WeTransfer and Adam taking time to say, go here, download this, Adam, how do I cut the 41-minute original video into pieces? He showed me how to do that. I'd send Adam pieces. And I think it's really, really going to be cool. You can hear Edward's comments. And what's cool is Edward talking about these songs in 96. Some of those songs are, 78, 88, 98, almost 20 years old.
77. 77. They were recorded in 77, yeah.
Right. So, to hear Edward kind of, think back on them and, and then Derek playing them. And I think everybody's going to dig it. If you dug kind of the read through, I think this is like the next step forward. I think it's going to be really cool. And this will also be, 4 or 5 segments, whatever it works out to. But yeah, that's coming up. Adam is still doing all that editing and cutting and pasting graphics and doing all that stuff. So, yeah.
When should we expect all that?
Adam?
Well, I think, the first one's just about ready. So I guess going with the read-throughs, what we're doing like every 10 days, is that right? Or once a week type thing?
The read-through I think was like once a week, yeah.
Yeah. So the first one should be maybe a week from now, I'd say.
Wow.
How many of them are there going to be?
There'll probably be 5, I'd say.
Right on.
Yeah.
5 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's going to be
good.
Yeah.
This is going to be good.
We've
Tony.
never heard any of this. Wow.
No.
Tony,
Yeah.
we need to get Derek on. We need to get Derek on for the premieres of these.
I'm sorry, we need to do what?
We have to get Derek on for the premiere of these on Halenville. So
Yeah.
Tony and I have a little bit of work to do here. A little bit of scrambling.
And I must say, Derek does a great job on these videos as well.
He does.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That is
Cool.
that I can't wait.
Yeah, man.
So we'll be talking about that in weeks to come.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you guys a question. You know, you guys knowing all things Van Halen. I mean, have you ever heard, not even Van Halen specifically, but have you ever kind of seen or heard anything like that? You know, so a guy's talking about a band, and then there's somebody playing the songs, and then there's the actual audio. You know, from the artist. I mean, I haven't, which is
That's
why I thought it was
that
Yeah.
kind of
it's
cool. You know, kind
special.
of unique.
It's special. All of
Yeah.
and they're up on Steve's YouTube page.
Yes.
Go back. There's audio tapes up there before the book that are on his
Yeah.
YouTube page that are just gold to Van Halen fans. Go check them out if you haven't. I'm sure you have. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely gold. Steve, I want to ask you as much as you recorded Ed, through the years in various ways, he recorded you also at least
Yeah, he did.
once that we know of, and when Eddie passed, um, Steve was the first person who I called when I heard that news. I called Steve and asked him if I was hearing some crap or if it was the real thing. And but so we were doing a live stream here, a Show Me Your Pick episode, and this was just a couple of days after Eddie's passing, and our lovely co-creator over on Show Me Your Pick read a narrative that Steve had written in lieu of Ed's passing just that night before, and he Sandra read that, and it was so lovely. Steve, I have that
Mhm.
queued up if you want me to run that.
I mean, I'd love to hear it. I don't, you know, if the
It it
if
is
the
lovely
chat room,
with your permission.
sure, absolutely. I mean, I mean, I thought it was amazing. You know, if the chat room will indulge us, you know,
It is
I'd be,
worthy, people. It definitely is worthy. What Sandra does here, and bless you, Sandra Picorni, for doing this. Beautiful, beautiful reading.
Yeah,
It'll bring a tear to your eye.
yeah. Hopefully not. It is lovely. Um, Steve talks about this in the book, and it is one of my personal favorite
Mhm.
Steve Rosen stories of all time. I'm going to pull this up, guys. Give me a second. This is all right. All right. All right. There we go there. Let me know, Keith, if you can hear and see everything okay as we proceed.
Correct.
Here, so this is a couple of days after this is October the 10th, and we tried to do a Show Me Your Pick episode on Deep Purple that night, and it was very apparent after about 30 minutes that it was not to be a Deep Purple show at all. And yeah, so all right, here we go.
All right.
Let's hear this post.
This is per Steve Rosen Facebook. I never post on Facebook. Oh, and a quote. I never post on Facebook. I thought I'd leave this one. I'm not sure exactly what to write about Edward. I can tell you how I feel, like my heart is devouring itself. I haven't spoken to Edward for years, but that doesn't make his loss any less devastating. I did call him a few months ago and left a message on his voicemail, but I never heard back from him. Now I never will. I'm not going to tell you how he changed the very vocabulary of rock guitars, single-handedly revolutionized the crafting of custom guitars, or influenced a generation of guitar players as much as, if not more than anybody who ever picked up the instrument. I've said all that before. What I can tell you is for a number of years, we were pretty good friends. I can tell you he was generous, funny as fuck, and honest as hell. I can tell you I was in awe every moment I spent with him. There is one last thing I can tell you. I jammed with Edward Van Halen. One evening, I'd gone over to his house for some reason. He may have called, which he'd do from time to time, and say he wanted to hang out and spend some hours out in 5150, his studio. His guitars were laying all over the place, strewn on the floor, standing up in corners, and the outboard gear was turned on and lit up like the cockpit of an airplane. He picked up one of his Strats and handed it to me and said, "Let's jam." I looked at him sideways and thought, right, I'll just jam with Eddie Van Halen. I can do that. Ed picked up a bass, plugged in, and looked at me and saw I was frozen in place. He said something like, "Just play the fucking guitar." It's hard to remember exactly what he said, but that was the import of it. So I was sitting there with one of his butchered Strats in my arms while he reached over to the Marshall I was plugged into and adjusted the volume and tone. I'd turned the volume all the way down on the guitar because I couldn't even bring myself to make a sound. In the meantime, Ed had plugged the bass into another rig and was starting to noodle around. If I was partially inert before, I was now a statue. I had gazed into the eyes of Medusa and I was made of stone. My fingers refused to work and I could barely remember how to hold a pick. He continued to mess around on the bass and looked over at me again because nothing was happening. He didn't say a word, but shot me a look that said, "Come on, it's no big deal, just play." I loved him for that. I could breathe again. I turned the volume knob, held the pick steady, strummed a chord, and it was the fucking most beautiful guitar sound I had ever heard. It was the chord heard round the world, a clarion call, the sirens sweetly singing, the fucking voice of God. I had played guitar for many years prior to this, and I've had Marshalls, Fenders, acoustics, Ampegs, Line 6s, as well as every guitar from a St. George 12-string to a Mustang Strat Telecaster Les Paul and Ibanez. And I've never come within 1,000 miles of a tone like this. I've never been in the same universe as a sound like this. I turned up the volume a bit louder and started fiddling around. I looked over at Ed to make sure I wasn't fucking up or annoying him, and he flashed me one of his heartwarming smiles, and that's all I needed. For about the next hour, we jammed. I tentatively started playing a riff I'd written for one of my songs. I'd been a songwriter for years, and Ed said, "What's that?" I told him it was something I wrote, and he started working up bass parts. He had me keep playing the same riff over and over as he came up with ideas. It was an extraordinary moment because for a brief second, I had a close encounter with the way Edward approached his own songwriting. I could hear him refining the ideas on bass and searching around for what would follow the riff. His sense of harmony was so groundbreaking, and he started coming up with these riffs that took the song to a place I couldn't have imagined in 10,000 years. Ed had inserted a cassette into the boombox when we first started playing. He recorded everything he ever did, and I can remember seeing boxes and boxes of tapes. When we were done, Ed handed me the tape. The gesture was perfect. Edward understood exactly who he was and what it meant for me to sit there with him for an hour and jam. He had that sense about himself, and in all the times I spent with him, I never heard him brag or boast about his own playing. Never. Which is why for that one evening, I was just another guitar player, an equal. When we were done, Edward started talking about my song. He asked what I was doing with it and stuff like that, and I couldn't believe I was having this conversation. I muttered something about it just being a riff I had, and he said he wanted to work on it some more, and would that be okay? He even hinting at maybe working it up in some form or another for the next album. Again, it's insanely hard to remember exactly what he said because it's probably somewhere over 35 years ago, and I couldn't believe I was hearing them. I had been a struggling songwriter for years, and then in the blink of an eye, Eddie Van Halen tells you he wants to work on your song. I was buoyant, speechless, transformed. That's all I could think about in the weeks to come. Nothing ever happened with the song. Of course, Van Halen never recorded it. I was heartbroken, pissed off, and disillusioned, but not surprised. I knew the chances of that riff ever finding its way onto a Van Halen album was about as likely as me dating Jennifer Connelly. Pretty fucking unlikely. But for one night, I did play guitar with Edward Van Halen. I just took that tape out and listened to it. Ed's playing was magical, of course, and mine, pretty fucking cool. I've not spoken with Ed for decades. We had a falling out over what I thought was an incredibly stupid misunderstanding, but he didn't think so and never talked to me again. And that hurt for a long time, but I finally got over it. Sometimes it seems as if I never really knew him or met him, and that I've made up all these stories and I never interviewed him or wrote about him. But the truth is, for about 10 years or so, I was lucky enough to have been part of his life. I'm grateful for that. I miss him. End quote.
Who's got a tissue? Holy crap. I'm balling over here.
That was good. Honestly, I didn't remember. I didn't remember that at all. I mean, I remembered Sandra, reciting it before, but I didn't remember what was in it. That was good. I mean, wow. That was
Yeah.
cool.
How often have you listened to the tape, Steve?
That tape?
Yeah.
Never.
Never.
You mean tape of me playing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Honestly, I had never listened to it until I started working on the book. You know, I know that sounds strange. All the interviews that I've done, excuse me, it's not like I would pull out a Jeff Beck tape or a Brian Wilson tape to listen. I just never did that kind of stuff, you know. Same reason I never read any of the stories I ever wrote. I mean, you know, a guitar will come out, you know, and I'd open it to look and see what it looked like and graphically. It's not like I'd sit there and read it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. It's like once I wrote it, it was like it's out of my hands. It's done, you know. And
that's kind of like what Eddie did with his interviews with you. You know, and with his music as well. You know, he's like, okay, it's done. You know, next story.
Yeah, I suppose so. But yeah, Sandra did an amazing job. Is Sandra okay?
She is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just was wondering. I thought she would have
And
been
thank you, Sandra, for that. That was so lovely. Yes, thank you.
That was really nice for her to do that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That was absolutely lovely. Make the fur stand up. Yeah. So did you ever, that particular song idea, did you ever complete the song, Steve?
I never did. did.
Would you even contemplate having somebody listen to it live? You know, putting a release on it here?
Well, if not to put that on you, but at least to have you ever thought about taking the bass off of it and working the song and completing it and using that bass on it?
Exactly.
Do you know what would happen if I did that? There would be people knocking at my door with pitchforks and.
But you had to have thought about it, though.
No, honestly, I never did. You know,
just to stay away from the flames and pitchforks, I can understand. Okay.
Yeah, man. You know, I mean.
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean, I hear it. You know, somebody else might hear it, and I mean, look, Ed's bass playing is ridiculous. I mean, it's Eddie Van Halen playing bass. I mean, the guy, you know. I don't know. It's hard for me to revisit that stuff. It's hard for me to listen, even though I listened obviously to all the interviews when I wrote the book. It's hard to listen to that stuff. I'm not quite sure why. You know, all my interviews. I mean, even if I've done something and an Aerosmith interview, it's like I think, well, I could have done better, or then I think, oh no, that's good, and it's just weird. I don't know what that syndrome is, but I've always had that. So yeah. I'm sorry, Daryl, who's been a good friend for many years, is in the house, so wanted to say hello. Yeah.
Ben
so,
Shipman, welcome.
Yeah. Very good guitar player.
Right on.
And his son.
Very cool.
So yeah, absolutely. Can I talk about a couple more things here?
Absolutely.
Talk about anything you want.
Cool. So the webpage I talked about, just go check it out. Even if you bought the book or you don't want to buy the book, let me know what you think. I think it's really cool. There's some cool pictures up there and some cool video. So I'm just interested in what you think about that. What else did I want to ask? Oh, I've seen some comments here about an ebook, which I've been thinking about. I'm sorry, my cat jumped right here. So been thinking about an ebook. Trying to figure that out. Maybe this summer. That's certainly a possibility. And also thinking about sorry, I'm just looking at this. Jay Turner had bought some guitar picks from me, and he's thanking me for the guitar. Funny. And I've been thinking about an audiobook. And, judging from the response of everybody, from the read-throughs and then me kind of, going off script, as it were, maybe the audiobook becomes that kind of an experience, reading the text and then commenting on it, which is something I've never, I don't know, maybe other writers have done that, audiobooks. I've never heard of it. So anyway, so thinking about audio and ebooks. The second edition, I heard that the books are basically in the dock in China. They're just waiting to find a boat to go on. Arrival is tentatively May 10th. That's when they will arrive in the port here, San Pedro or Long Beach. And I'm hoping it'll only be a couple days before they are trucked to me. I don't live far from the ports. So I'm hoping mid-May to have books in hand. And everybody who has pre-ordered, I will get those books out as quickly as I possibly can. Also wanted to ask anybody who has the book, if you could possibly leave a review on Amazon. Amazon loves that stuff, and if you could put a review up there, that would be great. Yeah, if you just go to Amazon, type in TONECHASER book, it'll take you right to my page, and yeah, you'll see it there.
You'll find that easily. ToneChaserBook.com.
Yeah, that's the website, and if you just type in TONECHASER on Amazon, you'll find it as well. What else? The book obviously is not up on Amazon, eBay, Reverb, or Etsy at the moment because there are no books. But as soon as I have books, I'll put quantities of books in each of those sites, and you'll be able to purchase the books there. And yeah, that was about all I had to say. Oh, I also wanted to thank. Hang on one sec, guys. Mike Tempesta. Mike is artist relations at EVH guitars, Fender and Charvel. Was a fan of the book, and he sent me a guitar,
Nice.
which was extraordinarily generous of him. And so thank you to him. And in fact, in the upcoming video with Derek playing, he plays the songs from the first Van Halen record on this guitar. So
Right on.
got to keep things real.
Yeah.
I have to ask you one question, Steve, because you invited me and I unfortunately was unable to attend. You had a little sit down in your home.
I did.
And I know Derek was there, but I also want to know all the goings on that happened that day.
Yeah, man, that was a fun day.
Unveil all that.
It was, yeah. You know, so I've been lucky enough to have been surrounded by people like you who, you know, I mean, you believe in the book and what I did so much that you're willing to give of yourselves. And Adam has given so much time. And Keith, you know, you've always been out there, man, talking about the book. And Tony, who has pushed me way back in the day, hey, man, write a book, you know. It's hard to find people in this world who care like that, who are willing to put themselves out and not ask for anything in return. So I just saw it as a little, you know, reason, you know, to invite some of these people over to the condo. You know, I moved here about a year ago, and you know, it's a cool little pad, and you can see I'm in my bedroom, you know, one of the bedrooms. There's like pictures on all the walls, and you know, it was just kind of a thank you to these people for helping me. So Derek was there, Derek Fuller, John Elliott, who I'd actually met through, I saw guitar picks on eBay. John is one of the preeminent guitar pick collectors in the world. I mean, his collection of guitar picks is, you know, it's insane. And, you know, we came to know each other, and, you know, he knew about the book, and he's gotten a ton of copies. And so I wanted to have John over, though John had been over to the pad before, but, you know, so I had John over. Actually, it's a buddy of mine from high school who actually just lives not far from me. My good friend Jim Howe. I invited this guy Trent, who I was actually in the post office, and he saw. Sorry, guys, the cat is going insane here. Hang on one sec. Stay there. Stay there.
Yep, arpeggio.
Arpeggio, the cat.
Arpeggio going at it. Yep. Yeah, I was so happy to meet that cat, and Arpeggio was just so cool. Just like, yeah,
Sorry,
how's
guys.
it going?
You can see the tail. So I'm in the post office, and I was shipping books in the actual box that they came in. There's 8 books in a box, and somebody had bought 8 books. I think Book Soup, where I did the book signing, I think they had placed an order. And so this guy standing in line, and the label on the box, which I left on there, you know, it says a TONECHASER, you know, Understanding Edward, my 26-year journey with Every Van Halen, has my name on it. And he's looking at it. He goes, did you write this? I go, yeah. He goes, oh, that's cool. You know, I want to get the book, you know. And I thought he was just making conversation. He was just being nice, you know. And then like a couple of days later, I see an order from this guy, Trent, and he had sent me a little note. He lived very close to me. Anyway, he's like giving me like suggestions for YouTube and stuff. Anyway, so I invited Trent, Derek, Jim, John, Chris Bella, who I've talked about, who helps me with all my Instagram stuff and Facebook, and Marco, who's actually a sheriff in Pasadena, who had gotten the book, and we've just kind of become friends. Marco's a really good guitar player, and I invited him. And so, yeah, man, it was fun. We talked about the book and tossed around ideas, and yeah, it was great. It was very cool. Bought a ton of food, bought a ton of beer, and none of these guys drank, so left with 50 bottles of beer, which I brought to my brother because he's an alcoholic. No. He likes drinking good beer once in a while. He actually ended up giving the beer home to somebody, you know. But it was a fun day. it was really fun. I'm really glad I did that. All these people again, man. To have like these people just so willing to help, because they love something. It's such an amazing feeling. It's just really cool. So
Yeah.
I thank all of those guys. I thank all of you guys.
I have to also excuse give one other shout out to one other person you did not mention yet, though. Daniel Gray and Niels Lozauer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they were major contributors in making this book happen. This could not have happened without them. Without, Neil's photography and, Daniel's artistic vision. I mean, it could not have happened. I just love how he had the shadowing of Eddie at the beginning page of every chapter.
Yeah.
And I know that stood out for everybody.
Yeah.
Whoever bought this book, and just the design of the book, having it all, you have the highlighted section, and then you have the matte finish on one section. It's just beautiful. You got to give it up for them.
Come here. Sorry, guys. My cat. Come here. Sorry, guys. Yeah, no, absolutely. Neil, and Daniel were essential. Neil let me choose photos, and I could have chosen 1,000 photos. Sorry, guys. The cat walks over the desk, and I think he wants to sit on the chair. He wants a little attention. Yeah, Slows is. I've known Neil since I think like
50 years. You've known him 50 years almost.
Yeah, since 74.
He told me 72 he's known you.
That's possible. Certainly possible. And again, Neil's one of these guys where if he's not yelling at you, he doesn't like you. What do you mean you're gonna find a publisher? Publish it yourself, you fucking don't be a fucking idiot, Yeah, you want to use the pictures? Yeah, use the pictures. When he's complimenting you, you're not sure if he's not insulting you, but I love the guy. He's been a champion of mine, and I'd do anything for the guy. And Daniel,
that was the one thing I picked up with him, with Neil. He reminded me so much of being a New Yorker, and that was one of the first questions I asked him when I first met him at the book signing at Book Soup. I said, "Are you from New York originally, or do you have family from New York? Because you got the total attitude." He's like, "No, it's just me, the way I always been." I'm like, "I love it." He's a great guy.
He is always
Daniel, and then Daniel has been so down to earth and so open armed for anybody, and I had to give it up for him at the Book Soup signing because none of this would not have happened without him either.
Well, the other important thing not to overlook is that both Daniel and Neil made it out that night on a torrential rain. Look, man, I know how far you drove, and I know how far Johnny Dean drove. But the fact that they were there, that's that means everything. Yeah, and Daniel, I got to give him his props, man. Besides all the art direction and me making 10,000 different edits, and Daniel put the comma, take out the semicolons, Daniel do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. So he became a de facto editor. He had a lot of really good ideas. He caught some grammatical mistakes, which made me insane, but rightly so that he pointed them out. And he was great. And he put this, second edition together, got the cover together, made the little changes in the photo section. So, yep, I owe those guys big time,
Yeah, you're in good. You got some good people around you, Steve. It's great people in the Van Halen world. There is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, I tell you what, let's do, since we're an hour and 25, you can
Wow.
refill your coffee real quick. Let's go to the chat and let's play real quick. Let's play us some nearly impossible Van Halen trivia and give away a cool prize. What do you think?
Yeah.
How
Sounds
about
good.
it?
What do we got in store for them tonight, Johnny?
All right, what do we got for them, John? We're gonna give them a million Van Halen bucks like that right there, you see, and we're gonna give you
Cool.
two. We're gonna give you a 1971 D quarter. Look.
Does that have any
Yeah.
significance, Tony? Or is it just a 1971 quarter?
Of course, it has some significance.
What is it?
That for the, until I knew.
The quarter. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we talked about that, Steve, at your house. Remember? That is why you gave me these. Okay? Because I said the answer to that quarter is in these magazines.
Well, the reason I didn't know that is because you took my magazines, Keith.
You said you had seconds. I'll drive back up and give them to you right now in a heartbeat.
I'm kidding.
So good luck for tonight with nearly impossible Van Halen. If you're the winner, there's a trivia winners email down below. Email me your name, address. I'll mail that out, plus some cool guitar picks too, I'm sure. Thanks for being here. Thanks for playing. This is nearly impossible Van Halen trivia. All right,
Nearly
here we
impossible.
go. Nearly.
Nearly.
You know, sometimes, Steve, I try to make it so hard that no one gets it and I actually win, but I hope
Nice.
somebody wins, but I do try to make it hard.
Nice, because I have to tell you, Tony, some of your other contests have been pretty simple, a little
Yeah.
too simple. So this better be freaking hard.
Well, I skunked them last week, I think,
Okay,
or
good.
the week before, but I
Good.
think
2
that
weeks.
this one
2
is
weeks
slightly
suspended, yeah.
easier, slightly. All right, here we go. Good luck, chat. Thanks for being here. You guys rock. Boom. Here it is. During the 1978 tour, Eddie Van Halen had a girlfriend. No surprise. What is her first name? What is her first name?
I know this. I want that quarter. Can I play?
I will
you're not
gladly
eligible.
send you a quarter of its liking. Yeah. All right.
Here's the answer.
Not
Ready?
Jamie. Not Shirley.
Tell me this, Tony. Is
Yes,
her
sir.
name in the book?
Yes.
Adam?
It
Yeah.
It is?
It
Yes,
is,
it
yeah.
is.
Should be.
It is. It is. Trust
Yep.
me, it is.
I know exactly what chapter as well.
I'm seeing some creative names so far. Let's see what
Yeah.
we got. Vanessa, right on. Valerie. There's
Vicky.
Betty, Keith.
Michelle.
Betty.
Hey, there's Betty right there.
There's Frankie. Okay.
Daphne.
Thank you, Charlotte. Right on.
Susan. Lenny. Connie.
Have you
I'd
guys
give a-
not read
I'd
this
give a
before?
hint.
Yeah.
I would give a hint,
Answer's
but
in
I
here.
can't. No,
I'll
Adam,
say what
look
chapter
it up.
is that you know.
Adam, look it up and secretly send it to me.
The chapter.
Look up the name and send it to me.
Your answer is in the private chat. Guys
Okay,
on
you
the
do.
panel, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Leave
Yeah.
it forward. That's funny.
It's now leader though. No, it was. I mean, they had a thing, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
I knew
Lita.
a girl named Candy once. I sure did. That's another story.
I love candy.
Bubbles.
Do. Hey,
Boom, boom.
yeah. I knew a girl named Bubbles. We used to call
Yeah.
her Bubbles all the time.
Yeah, so
Lola.
guys, all we need is her first name. It's not like we're Need a
I know.
copy of her birth
Look at this.
certificate.
This is like Stripperville over here. We got Bubbles, we got Candy, Lola, Cinnamon, Mercedes.
Yeah, it's in the.
Tony, can I say the name? Can I say the last name? Because I can't remember the first name.
No. No
That'll
hints.
give it away?
It'll jog
hints.
memories.
I don't think
No
so.
hints. No hints.
Steve, it's in the
not a
private
hint.
chat.
I'm trying to
There
think
you
if I
go,
can
Patty.
remember.
Right on. Not correct though, but I love the answer.
Why don't you give him the first letter?
No.
Why don't we give them the last name? That's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
Adam.
Okay, the last name is Miller. And can I say what chapter it's from? Or they give it away?
No.
That'll give it away.
No.
That'll give it
Okay.
away.
That'll give it away.
Even though it is a big book, it'll give it away. OU812, nice to see you, bro.
What's going on?
So Miller is the last name. What's the first name?
I could give a very obscure hint. Very obscure.
I don't like the way that sounds, Keith.
Very obscure. Oh, Sova.
We got it. We
There we
got
go.
him.
Sova.
There he is. There he is.
Yeah, the anniversary boy.
The strong horse in the field
Yes.
has won it. Yes.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Michael
Oh.
Jordan doesn't miss, does he?
No, he's on a rampage right now lately with the trivias. Here
Right
and
on,
at Trivia
Chris.
Pick. Good for
You
you.
got it, buddy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, dude.
Mhm.
So it was from
All
chapter
right.
9.
Yep, Kim Miller.
Yeah.
Marshal the Truth.
Kim Miller is your answer. Yep, in chapter 9, and it's in other places as well, also. And
I'll be right
yeah,
back.
awesome. Chris, thanks for being here. Thanks for playing. I'll mail your stuff out in the morning, bro. Boom. All
Well done,
right.
Chris.
Okay. Steve, I want to tell you my take on this book. For the past 8 weeks or so, I've been rehabilitating a new hip, and so I've had time to read. I've purposely put this book in a reading time and category for me for a very special time in my evening where I can read. I'm clear headed, it'll soak in, and I read it like that the whole way, and I loved that I read it that way. And all the stuff, there is so many. This book is all first person. I mean, it's all first person. And as a Van Halen fan, you sit there with your mouth open the whole time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yep.
So, but it is your life's work, having still a stack of Guitar Player magazine, Guitar World. Luckily, still, this book is a culmination of your whole career, and your writings, and I think you did it right. You know, you waited, you thought, and when you did, you wanted to make it complete, and I think I think it is complete. You know, and so for all of us in the Van Halen world, thank you for this book. This book is a treasure, and will always be. Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And I have to also concur with them and say I was so thankful for the minute that this book got released. And I'm so thankful for the moment that I got this book and that Tony and I got the book on the same day. And the night that it came, it came out, we did a premiere of the book, and I was just, I was shocked and appalled. The first 20 pages on the introduction alone, I was sitting there reading until 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, wow, this is good. This is going to be really, really good. And every page I turned on this thing, there was like a new, just, a new vision of everything. And yeah, there are a lot of things in here that might piss off some people, but it's real, it's truth, and it shows the true Edward. Here's the wonderful thing, though, okay? You got to see a page, every page. You got to see what Eddie was truly like from a perspective that only you had, nobody else. That's the wonderful thing. Hey, Opregio. And that is the thing I love about this book, okay? You've never done, like Tony said before, you've never done a first-person perspective, and you hate it as well, except for like Kerouac or, Hunter, But
Exactly.
this is the way it should have been done. And I have to say, people, if you haven't gotten it already, please get this. This is a pillar. It's a Bible if you are going to be a Van Halen fan. This is one of your scriptures right here, period.
Yeah. And I must say too, like what you say in the title, Steve, about the journey with Edward Van Halen, reading this book, it really does take you on a journey, I found. Like reading it, you can actually feel the highs and lows, the words you put into it, and just everything, you really go on that journey with you, which is really comes across.
That's great, guys. Thank you to all of you and everybody in the chat room who's read the book. Those responses are exactly what I was hoping to elicit from the reader. I mean, that's what I wanted the reader to feel. It was a journey, and it was amazing being around him. But like I said before, it was hard at times, There wasn't always, grins and giggles.
He's self-admitted, though. He said he's not a good person to get along with because he is very scrupulous at times.
He was unbelievably honest. That's what it was, and that's hard.
Brutally honest. Yeah.
I mean, that can be a hard thing to deal with sometimes. If you hear these things being said about you, and you think, But So yes, that I wanted to create that. I wanted to create a journey. I wanted you to come along. I wanted you to feel like you were there. I wanted to, pull back the curtain, and that's why some of that stuff went in there. And I thought long and hard about including some of that stuff. And I've said it before, the last thing in this world that I wanted to do or would ever think about doing was hurting somebody or embarrassing somebody, writing something that wasn't true. So at the end of the day, those parts had to remain in there. I left those parts in there about myself. They're not all, beautiful, pristine moments. So yeah, man, I'm sorry. You talk about Kerouac, and they're talking about Kerouac here. Yeah. Anyway, you're writing this thing, and I've written 300 pages, and I'm on page 400 and 500. And I'm not done yet, and worrying about every word and every scene, and should I include that? Should I not include that? Are people going to read this about Edward and be angry about it? Do they really want to know who Edward is? At the end of the day, I can only be my own critic, and I go, yeah, I think if you want to know about Edward, you want to know about Edward, and not just that Edward Van Halen who's on stage, you know, and so that's what I was trying to bring to the book that maybe other books didn't bring, only because those writers, as amazing as they were, they weren't friends with Edward in the way I was. So it was hard, you know, and maybe that's why I stretched it out and doing all those edits at the end, because I was maybe a little, not afraid, but just unsure what that reaction would be to a book like that. You know,
Maybe being too hard on yourself a little, Steve.
I've always been that way.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know any other way to be. I wish I wasn't like that. Greg Trupiano. Greg is my main liaison with China. Greg has dealt with this Chinese printer for 20 years, so he knows them. You know, he handles everything. You know, I'll call him, Greg, where's the book? Why isn't it being shipped? Greg, goes, he says, calm down. I know you're going to worry, you know. I'm just that kind of person, you know. I'm very hard on myself, and you know, I'm my own worst critic. And
it sounds familiar. Anybody who's a fan of Edward, it sounds familiar.
It does.
Yeah,
well, that way, he set a big shadow for you, and he set a path for you. And I have to regress and go back to what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about NAMM. Do you know why you were there? You were going to be the keeper of the torch. You know, you were there to record it all. That's why. He wanted it, whether it be subliminally or not, you were there to make sure that it got notated and somebody else saw it, because he was still in awe of hanging out with all these people too, but he wanted it to be known.
You got to get this book to read this NAMM story.
Exactly.
Oh,
all of the stories, every of the meetings, all of them. I agree, Tony.
Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, and what you say, Keith, I mean, that could be true. I'd like to think it's true, you know. Yeah, you know, so I was hard on myself. At the end of the day, you know, I went back and, you know, I mean, I must have read the book just through edits and everything. I mean, I've read it so many times. You know, and I thought, you know what, Steve Rosen, and I'm incredibly modest about what I do. I mean, I thought, you know what, it's a good book, and at this point, all you can do is put it out there and hope people like the book. I suppose any writer feels like that. You know, and I didn't take the easy way out. You know, I could have left out a bunch of that stuff. I could have just put together a book of all the interviews, and, you know, that would have been a book. But yeah, so I'm incredibly happy with the book. I mean, it's the best writing I've ever done. And, you know, from the responses I've received, you know, people seem to have really been touched by it. And you know, they love reading it as much as I, you know, at the end of the day, loved writing it. So
absolutely. All longtime Van Halen fans are fans of your past writing anyway. Absolutely.
I will say this may be one of your legacy writings. Period.
I don't know, man. I hope so. I don't think like that, but I mean, look, I mean, I stopped really writing. When I say writing, I really stopped doing interviews probably about 3 or 4 years. Just sort of, you know, drifted off into the sunset in terms of doing interviews and doing magazine articles. I couldn't do that anymore. So, I mean, conceivably, this is the last thing I ever write. I don't know. Maybe there's another book out there somewhere. So, yeah, I mean, if it is my legacy, I mean, and it stands the test of time on some level.
It will. It will.
You know,
it will. Trust me. It will.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. And it's so fantastic to see also this global acceptance of the book. You know, that's fantastic. I'm glad that this has been and they're gone. You know, you sold out. Wow.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, yeah, I've had I've had a few orders from Japan. I've had 1 or 2 from China, Shanghai.
Well, they should have cut the middleman right out the printer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wonder if they're distributing my book in China. They've got the book. No, I'm
Right.
kidding. These guys, I met these guys, the printers. They were actually in town. I met them a few weeks ago. These guys, they're amazing. You know, it's like, oh, thank you for letting us print your book. I mean, trust me, the run count of my book compared to what these guys do it's minuscule. I thought the company, had been around. I thought there was like, I don't know, half a dozen employees or a dozen. They have 600 people working there. I mean, these
Nice.
guys are amazing. So yeah, I mean, I love these guys. They've done everything they've said. They've done things on time, and
And the quality is top notch.
yeah, it's amazing.
I have no complaints whatsoever on this first edition whatsoever. And did they all come out in one batch? All the first printing?
Yeah. In fact, hang on, guys.
Because the embossing on this is off the rails. I've had
It
this leaning also, and the binding is holding up beautifully.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. So you guys are the first guys to actually see this. So they
There we
sent me.
go.
They sent me a few advanced copies. So I'm trying to get that glare out of there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we were going to ask you, is this already out and shipping? Because
No,
we saw the picture of you holding it out now.
yeah, that was. They sent me, I think, 4 or 5 advanced copies just to make sure everything was cool. But yes. So I did hold them at NAM. That's true. But it's hard to see. So Edward's whole
No, it
face
looks good.
in that UV coating, and what's cool is it goes over the title here, and it sort of has like almost like a 3D thing, same binding embossed,
Right.
and then
Yeah. Just like with the first printing. I love it. It's
first
beautiful.
printing, and then
That's why I got to get a second one.
Yeah, and then the pictures, and I'm not going to show you the pictures, the 3 extra pictures, but they're cool, they're fun, you guys will dig it. But I mean, yeah, the quality, and you bring up an excellent point, Keith, because this is a really thick book, and the binding, opening and closing, I was hoping, I thought, don't let a bunch of people say, hey man, I've been reading the book, I've opened and closed the book, a dozen times, and the binding is coming apart. But they just did an amazing job,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like a little red strip inside there. You can't see it.
That's the way old books were made.
What's that?
That's how the old books were made back in the day.
Yeah,
They had that extra lining in back there. Yeah.
There's a term for that. I forget what it's called, but they tried to match the color with the color of the text on the cover. Anyway, plus there's a thing inside, and I'm not going to show it to you. It's really cool. It's another little wrinkle, and that was my idea. So
Hold that up one more time, Steve. Up one last time. So, folks, TONECHASERbook.com.
Yeah, this is the new version, the second printing.
Second printing, same content, different covers, and some extra photos.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right on. So
Yep.
Steve, I was always curious of this. When this book first launched, did the Reels documentary, do you think that helped launch it, to push it first and draw attention?
Honestly, I am not sure. I thought that it would have a bigger reaction. Look, when I was approached to do that, I had actually worked with those producers before. I had done a thing when I was still living in Laurel Canyon, they did something on Ozzy. That's what it was. And I had, sat there and they interviewed me, I don't know, for a couple hours. And they were extraordinary. This is the BBC. They were, Reels is an offshoot of the BBC, sorry. Or one of the huge broadcast companies. Maybe it's not the BBC. ITV, I'm not sure if they're English. Anyway, they were professional and they treated me incredibly well, and I saw what the final outcome of it. And yeah, they asked some trash about Ozzy and, but it's like, I don't know. I never saw that part of Ozzy. So when they approached me to do this one and, they told me the title of what the show was going to be, it's like, I thought, oh my God. I don't really want any part of that, but they explained it to me and the other people that they had on. And when they asked me those kinds of questions, anybody who saw that, it was like, I don't know. I never saw that. I don't know, and what I did know, I talked about. So I was really happy with what I did. In answer to your question, Tony, I never had anybody come back to me and say, oh, I saw the Reels show, man. You talk about the book. I want to get the book. So I don't know what the response was, to be honest with you.
I think maybe it did have a positive effect on the spreading the word of the book because it had just gotten out there, I guess.
I'm trying to think when I did that and when I could have been within a few months of each other. It's hard to remember. But
they were pretty close. Yeah, they were pretty close.
Yeah.
So, there's one thing I do want to ask you though. Okay, because we're talking about documentaries here. There's the big freaking elephant in the room that we need to talk about.
Are you asking me about a documentary?
Yeah, the early days video.
Oh, well, I suppose everybody here in this chat room probably knows what that is. I'm guessing most of you folks out here have read the book. I didn't want to give the ending away, but I guess it really doesn't give the ending away. That was, man.
It goes through the entire book from 85 on.
Well, every good deed, every good deed, never goes unpunished. I thought I was doing something positive. It was good. It was like working on a documentary. If I ever had any idea that it would have turned into what it did, never in a million years would I have pursued that. And I write about it. Edward never saw it. And, had he seen it and said, God, why did you do that? That was insulting. And it was a piece of shit, It's like I would have felt horrible. But he would have been justified in his anger. But, it's always up on Tubi. I don't know if you guys know Tubi. It's one of the cable stations. And I saw on, and I've talked about it before, on YouTube, it's got like 600,000 views, and I watched it. I've watched it twice again, and I think for what it is, what we
have the DVD. I got it on disc. Yeah, I love it.
Spielberg, but it was really well done. It was a professional producer, and I did some of those interviews, and we tracked down some interesting people. Of course, Van Halen wasn't involved. We couldn't use the music. But I'm really proud of it. If I'd watched it later and cringed and gone, oh my God, why did I do that? That's, it's amateurish and it's, it doesn't cast the band in a good light. It's like, okay, Edward had every reason to be angry, but You know?
Well, no, I mean, it was first. It was great to see you on it and doing those, but I mean, I think to the whole show, yeah, they had other clips of other folks, but to
Yeah.
see you there, it gave it credibility. You know.
Exactly.
That's what I hoped, you know. You know, when I was approached, it's like, hey, I know Van Halen, I know Edward, I've got some stories I could share.
Right. If
And
anybody knows, it's Steve. And if they didn't recognize you by your face, if they watched it, they certainly know your name and your writings, and they just don't know it.
And actually, Steve, I must have correct you on one thing. She
Yeah,
just
yeah.
said like 600,000 views or something,
Yeah.
but now it's up to 2 million views now.
No.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. It's 2 million.
2 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's
Okay,
the
so-
thing. Okay, you were able to compile all of the people from back in the day. You know, we're talking, you know, the Brodricks, Kevin Hill.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking Broken Combs here. You know.
Yeah, man. And I've got
you had Slows. You had everybody compiled with this, and it's
And I
such a
have
great
all of that.
documentary of them.
And I have all of that on audio. I mean, these interviews I have with these guys, you know, those were the interviews also that I was going to do for the original book. I have unbelievable interviews with some of these guys, you know. The neighborhood, the brothers who were in, was the Broken Combs. I mean, just
Yeah, the Hill
incredible
brothers,
interviews.
Brian and Kevin Hill. Yeah.
So 2 million. Okay, so I want to reach out to you, 2 million people who watched the documentary. Go out and buy my fucking book. What the
Yeah.
hell?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Read this book now.
TONECHASERbook.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody who should have been, who was at those backyard parties, they should own this book already.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, I think it's like anything else, man. You know, look, if I had written this book back in '85 or '86 or '87, I mean, it would obviously have been an entirely different book. It would have been made up primarily of Edward's voice, and I probably would have put the pieces together. But in terms of getting the book out there, look, if it had come out, you know, back in the day, obviously with Edward on board, you know, it would have opened every single door. But short of that, you know, how did you get a book out there? Well, I mean, it probably would have been picked up by a publisher, but say it hadn't. Say I self-published a book back in the day. How would I have gotten the word out there? Well, you had no other choices other than magazines. So you put an ad in the back of Guitar Player and Guitar World, you know, maybe Rolling Stone. I mean, how would you get a book out there? Which is why you didn't have a whole lot of self-published books back in the day. So what the internet allowed you to do is to self-publish a book, do podcasts, come on great shows like this, you know, put up Facebook pages and Instagram. Now, the other side of that is if you're a moron with all that stuff, as I am, you have to surround yourself with people who know how to do that. But even beyond that, man, you have to constantly be reaching out there. I mean, I get emails every day. Hey, you know, I didn't know you had a book out. Hey, I just heard about your book. Where can I get it? So these people haven't even heard about the book, which is fair enough. So maybe these aren't hardcore Van Halen fans who are going to see the posts that I put up on the Van Halen sites or come and listen to your podcast, Tony, or, you know, follow me on Facebook. But maybe they just somehow, I don't know where they heard about the book. And that's the complex thing. How do I reach those people? How do I reach that person who's maybe not the hardcore Van Halen fan, or maybe somebody who only got into Van Halen on the 1984 record, or only knew of them through Sammy, you know? How do you find these people? You know, what kind of websites do you go to? So that's the challenge. As great as the internet is for being able to get your word out there, man, it's also a really complex labyrinth, which I don't know how it works. And thank goodness I have people around me who know how. But yeah, so somehow those 2 million people found that that documentary on YouTube, and I will bet you 99% of those people don't know about the book. Those are my feelings.
That's
you know,
true.
Or how do you touch the next generation? That's the big question.
I don't know.
Because there are kids who are 20 years old today, you know, and I know I actually helped raise some of those kids, and they're like, you got to tell me more about Van Halen. I'm like, you read this book. That's how you know about him.
Well,
It's that simple.
Steve, it's fair to say that looking to the future, that you should have many books ready, because for the rest of our lives they'll be wanting it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, you know, that could be. You know, I mean, the truth of it is,
hopefully our kids too.
yeah, well, that's
And their
very
kids
much,
as well.
you know,
3 generations, 4. This is our lifetime's Beethoven, our lifetime's Mozart.
yeah, well, yeah, no, I get that, you know, you know, I just, the idea of going, you know, starting another book, not a Van Halen book, but, you know, I've been thinking about Jeff Beck. You know, I wrote a book in '78 that came out in Japan. That was the first biography on Beck. And that relationship also ended in ashes through no fault of my own. But that's a different story for a different time. So I've been thinking, you know, maybe I should revisit the Beck book, and, you know, people are going to come screaming, oh, yeah, well, he's passed away and you're going to write the book now. It's like, you know, and I know that would be the minority, but it's just like, I don't even want to have to face that. But I think there's a good book there. You know,
It is.
I think there's a really interesting book. But, you know, in answer to your question, it really, that book, you know, I mean, it wasn't brain surgery, you know, I wasn't an astronaut in space, but the book takes a lot out of you. I mean, it was a really hard book to write, took a long time, and, you know, maybe there's another book in me somewhere. Just might take a little while, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Before we go any further on that, though, I have to give my heartfelt condolences to you, because I know how much of a Jeff Beck fan you were, and I think I was probably one of the first people to tell you about his passing, and I know how heartbroken you were, you know, and I know how deeply that affected you. I have to give you my biggest condolences. I have to apologize for having to tell you that. It just sucks, but damn it, it hurt me too. Well,
yeah, man. No,
and I wasn't a fan as you. It still rolled me.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. His passing was. I mean, I think we all thought he would live forever. You know, but yeah, that was tragedy. That was a tragic. Yeah, I mean, I have a good book. I mean, it's not like the Van Halen book. I wasn't friends with him, you know, obviously the way I was with Edward. But I'd interviewed him several times and got some interesting stories. And I interviewed a lot of the people he'd played with, you know.
Yeah.
That was a great book, though. Come on, don't self-deprecate yourself here. That was a great book.
Yeah, it was a great book. When he passed, a lot of us, Steve, knowing you were the first person who came to mind. You know, I was, you know.
The thing about Jeff, I mean, you know, and I write about it in the book, Jeff is my favorite guitar player. I think he's the greatest who ever lived. which isn't to say that Edward wasn't unbelievable. And I've been singing Jeff's praises. I mean, you know, from the moment I heard the Truth record, I thought, you know, he's the greatest who's ever lived, you know. And look, he's had an amazing career. Obviously, he's got millions of fans. I'm not saying I discovered Jeff Beck in any form or fashion. But you never heard about Jeff a lot back in the day. And people, they say, who's your favorite guitar player? You know, who's the greatest? I go, Jeff Beck. They go, nah, you know, Eric Clapton or, you know, whoever they say. But, you know, people finally came around and they realized, you know, I don't know, that he was probably the greatest. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, you know, I brought out the manuscript and I look at it and, you know, I start messing around with an intro and I think, okay, you know, it just seems like such an impossibly long process. You know, how am I ever going to get to the end of this thing? But yeah, maybe if you know, I can get a million of those people who saw the doc to go out and buy the book. Yeah, I'll write a Jeff Beck book. No, I'm kidding. The people, you know, I'm kidding. So.
He's worthy, though.
Right on.
He is worthy.
He
He's worthy
is.
of a rescripting. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know, he actually came out. I don't know if you guys have seen it. He actually came out with a book that he ostensibly put together. I haven't seen it. It was like a limited edition. I mean, it's beautiful. You know, it was like a $600 book or a $400 book, but it was, you know, limited edition. And so, I mean, that did come out recently. And, you know, there've been some other books about him. But yeah, I mean, he was the greatest who ever lived, I thought, you know.
Yeah.
Here's my take. I think Jeff Beck is the greatest guitar player who ever lived. I think Edward Van Halen was the most influential guitar player who ever lived. Obviously, Jeff Beck influenced lots of people. Jimi Hendrix did, Jimmy Page. But Edward did in a way that was, it just went beyond. I mean, there was, I don't know what it is. It was just this adoration. And as much as everybody idolized Clapton and Beck and Page and Blackmore, it just didn't reach the levels I think it did with Edward. Yeah. You know, when you start thinking about him as guitar builder, I mean, my God, you can't look at a Strat with one pickup or straps on a guitar without thinking about it.
Right.
If he had
That's the thing about the 70s. That's what the 70s were about, though, you know, because he changed everything the minute he started doing that. You know, before that, you didn't really hear about guitar players, you know, rebuilding their guitars at all.
No, never.
They were just like dealing with what they had. Yeah. They were modifying their amps or anything. Yeah.
The only guitar player that I could think of who did that previously, was Les Paul, and I write about that. And the only other guitar player I could think who built his own guitar and played his own guitar is Brian May. So tell me another guitar player who built his own guitar and played it. I'm not talking about signature slash guitars or Warren DeMartini, you know, guys who, you know, maybe they tweaked the pickup and guitars were built around them.
Buckers, you know. We
lost you there.
Yeah. Robbie Robertson, he messed with it a little bit, but it wasn't that effective like Brian May did or what Eddie did.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, and guys are writing in the chat, Clapton's wife picked up the guitar. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. You know, Clapton is God. I get it, you know. Yeah. But for me, and Clapton fans are going to shoot me for this, I don't think Clapton played anywhere near as well as he did after Blind Faith. I thought everything after that was downhill. Whereas Jeff, you know, after the Truth and Beckola records, you know, my God, Blow by Blow and Wired. I mean, those records,
Guitar
great
Shop.
instrumental records I ever heard.
Yeah.
Kind of got a
Absolutely.
little outside, his more recent stuff and later on, but his playing never diminished at all. So anyway, there you go.
Yeah,
History of
we
guitar.
know that Jeff Beck was your favorite. Absolutely.
Now you know for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
Absolutely.
was no doubt.
So I think my cat is calling, guys.
I got it. Bring our Pidgeot
Welcome.
to the stage.
Yep, exactly.
Right on.
I think he wants to read the book. Can you read it? Can you see his face? So,
Right.
so I think I'm gonna bounce you guys. We good? You got everything?
Steve, it's always a pleasure seeing you, sir. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, guys.
ToneChaserBook.com. It's in its second edition, handsome new cover, new nuggets inside that he won't tell us about.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, ToneChaserBook.com. Go get it if you don't have it already.
That's it.
Nice.
Guys, the
Guys,
great Steve
again,
Rosen, there he is.
thanks, guys, for everything, for always being there, for supporting me. And yeah, give me a shout when the second edition comes out, and you can check it out and let me know what you think, and we'll talk again.
Absolutely, Steve. Look forward to seeing you soon. Look forward to hearing this new audio that Adam and yourself have worked on. Can't wait to hear that. But everybody, ToneChaserBook.com. Steve, thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
See you later.
Love you, Steve. Talk to you
See you
soon.
guys.
And I will be seeing you within the next few weeks because I'm moving from San Diego. So I'm coming up for a visit.
Is that a promise or a warning?
Both. Both.
Okay.
That's a
A little
Anytime.
from column A, a little from column B.
Okay, guys. See you guys later.
All right, Steve.
good.
Take
Bye.
care. Thank you.
Thank
Love
you.
you. Take care.
All right. Right on.
Love every time we do a show with him.
Yeah. So Adam, I'm pretty psyched hearing that there's new Steve and Eddie audio that no one has ever heard.
It's awesome. Except for me, I've heard it.
You've heard
No,
it.
you guys are gonna love it. It's really,
There's
really,
Kurt.
really cool.
What's up, man?
Yeah, you could. But
Going
just the
on,
way he's done it.
5150, brother.
Yeah, the way he's done it with Derek, going through the songs and interview with Eddie, everyone's gonna really dig it. I hope.
Yeah, I
Look
can't
out, the first
wait.
one should be, I'd say about a week. The first one should be out.
Okay.
So
Nice.
make sure you check out all the 5 episodes of the last one.
Yeah, we'll share it here on the
Yep.
social.
And
Can't wait.
And in case anybody doesn't remember or know, today they put out the last one today, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Segment 5's out right now.
Let me take a minute. I don't want to wind down yet, guys.
There's a lot we have to talk about.
I want to do, I'm not going to forget, but I want to do a little unboxing. Okay. Our friend Dan of New Jersey has sent something, and I asked him, should I unbox it on the Saturday Show Me Your Pick? And he said it might be better suited to do on Wednesday, maybe Van Halen related. So let's see what's in here. Thank you, Dan, for sending this.
Hope you're doing well, Dan.
And again, as we said before, I show you what's in here. I'm peeking, can't see anything, but before, as we said earlier in the show, today is Dave Nesdall's birthday. So we're giving him a birthday shout out
Yep.
tonight.
Raise them all up for Nez tonight.
Yeah, sorry about the old image of Dave. We miss Dave. So
That's the
happy
day we love and
birthday.
always respected and
Yeah.
loved. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Let me see what's in here. So Dan.
All right. Dan's still in the chat, so yeah.
All right. So there is a nice note. Let me cut my little
He said
light
it's
on.
just something you thought you would enjoy.
Yeah. Okay. So. Oh no, you didn't. Oh wow. Man, I got to put these in some type of. I don't need to hold these things.
Oh, look at those.
It's a business card.
Business card from Paul Unkert. Holy jeez. Yeah,
Times
from
2.
back when he worked. Yeah.
Wow, dude. Dan,
Jeez.
thank you, man. Yeah, I will be putting that in a nice place. Yeah, I will.
And a baseball card protector.
Let me get out of there. Yeah,
Wow.
that's about right. That's about right. Dan, thank you, sir. Awesome, man.
Holy crap.
Certainly appreciate it. Yeah.
That's freaking badass, bro.
Yeah. Wow. Oh man.
Man,
You don't
and
want
you gotta
one.
post a
You don't want one,
got-
do you, Keith? You don't. You didn't want one anyway, so no.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I do. I want them both, but I'll take one.
Thank you, Dan. You rock,
But
dude.
if at the very least, post a picture of those. Okay, because those things are freaking rare. Holy
All I have
crap.
to do is post a picture. I don't have to send you one. Right on.
Oh no! Hey! Easy. But you
Yeah.
you need to share that with the world and show what Dan just sent you.
That
Holy
is nice,
crap!
though. Yeah.
That's freaking beautiful.
You'll see it up on the Halenville Live page. Yeah.
Nice.
You will. Right on.
You're the man, Dan.
Yeah. Let's give another shout out and congratulations to tonight's Nearly Impossible Van Halen trivia winner, Christopher Livesawa, and it's his anniversary today.
Yep.
And I'm sure his wife doesn't know that
Yep.
he's watching us while it's
Happy
their
anniversary to him and Cindy Lou.
Yeah. Right on, bro.
Hey, but at least they're not out of the concert because she puts up with all that all their lives together.
I don't know. It might be her.
Oh,
she might be the reason why he goes to all these concerts.
I doubt that. I doubt that severely. I don't think she influenced him. I think he influenced her. Just my opinion, but I know they both love it. I love the post that he did for her this morning, though. Here's to my shorter half.
Here's a thought for you about Steve's book. Here's a thought for you. If you think there was ever a movie about Van Halen, there'll get a lot of information here. This would be the book to go to.
Yeah, there's a screenplay right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah.
You don't even need any writers except for Steve Rosen.
Yeah.
He's already written it for you.
Yep. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. That's why I consider that book one of the pillars of Van Halen.
There's R2. What's up, bro?
R2, brother.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Right on.
There are just a handful of books I'd consider, to be scripture. That is one of them.
Yep.
Because it's a full gamut, right from the beginning to almost to the end. Almost. but
Yeah.
there are a few other books that fill in gaps, which are pillars that need to be spoken about. You know,
Yeah.
and you know we're talking all the ones that everybody knows about, but nobody's ever written one of these. You know, this thing is a beast. This, holy crap, 26 years.
Mm.
Yeah. What for me reading this book, and you have to understand, you know, Steve and me did show me your pick shows, but even long before that, I know Steve from the memorabilia world. Steve's a big guitar
Mhm.
pick guy, and it way before the years before the YouTube stuff. I used to ask Steve Van Halen questions just constantly, and he loved to talk about. He loved to answer them, and I loved that, and I'd ask more. But yeah, and through all of that, plus all the ones that he's told in, you know, backstage here at after live streams or on live streams, just to pick out the few that he had already told me personally, you know, in the past. I feel, you know, grateful to have known him. And you know, those all these, they're all first person, and it's so cool to read, you know. um,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, and like Steve was talking about earlier about, you know, the possibility of doing like an ebook and the audio book. I said to Steve, like, I think there'd be no one better to do the audio book than himself. You know, I think he's the one to read it, and the way he can add in those little comments, you know, about different things. Like I've listened to a few different audio books. Like one, for example, Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, and he he reads it, but he goes into these little bonuses. But oh, hang on, but wait, there's more. So I think Steve would be great at doing that.
Yeah.
It'll take a long
So,
time, but
but some people do their own voiceovers and some don't. But for this book, if he's going to do it, he better get some sleep.
yeah, that's right.
You know,
Yeah, it'll take a few weeks,
he
few months.
it'll take a bit. It'll
Yeah,
take a
that's
bit.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but that'll be really
but
good though.
but if it comes out in audio and he does it himself, it'll be, and how he explains a lot of stuff in the book, you know, the little extra
Yeah,
stuff, it'll be hard
Right.
to decipher that. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
But that's the best part of doing an audio book, because you could just like say, okay, this is what I'm thinking at this point.
Mm,
You know, he'll do a little aside, you know,
yeah,
like he's doing in the YouTube videos.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's the thing I like about those little read-throughs. He does add in those little things
Hmm.
to, you know, give a bit more to what he's reading about. People are reading
Yeah.
about.
And,
Really
and
cool.
Yeah.
that's the beauty of these little scriptures that he's doing on YouTube, because this is all the stuff that he wanted to do in the second
Yeah,
edition and print out, but he can't. But
Right.
doing it like this is beautifully done. You know,
yeah,
even,
exactly.
you know, including all the audio and, you know, just doing his own asides, and you know, it's perfect. You know, I
Yeah,
don't see any better way to do it.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, even
No,
these new
it's
ones,
the only way.
yeah, these new videos that we're doing, like, you know, he could have added like another chapter to this book with this audio. So, you
Yeah,
know, there's just so much
it would have
more.
been it would have been another 100 pages.
Yeah,
Adam,
exactly.
let me ask you this. We all, and all of you watching know what I'm talking about. We all enjoy your podcast series, Become a Guitarist Today. What's coming up on that? Any new news about that?
At the moment, there's nothing at the moment. Just still waiting on the agents to get back to me about a few different possibilities. I know there was talk about Steve Lukather, 'cause he's got an album coming out
Ooh.
June, July, I think.
Right.
But yeah, that all depends on his people. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens with that.
You've had some
But yeah, the
great
other ones-
artists.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so the other ones are still up there. I've got to put a few up on my Apple Music and Spotify, which I haven't done yet. So that will be coming up next week.
Nice.
And yeah, that's about it. So that's still going strong.
Right on.
And congratulations on the progress that you've made so far. Because you deserve every part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
every accolade you've gotten.
Oh man, I
You've
love
been
your stuff,
ooh,
Adam.
phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
TONECHASER, the largest rock it's the largest rock biography I think I've ever seen. Have you guys seen any big ones that come to that? I don't think so. 60 some
Hendrix,
chapters,
Hendrix
600.
maybe, but I don't think Hendrix was that big because they've done a few. Some people have done a few biographies on him, and maybe 500 pages, but not 600. No.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. Guys, I think we are going to wind things down. This has been such a fun night. It really has. Keith and Adam, dudes.
Thank you.
Such a great
Glad
night.
you guys were here. Yeah, man. Always great to have Steve back. Yep.
Always glad to be
Absolutely.
part of this legacy. Come on. It's all about keeping the flame alive. Right?
Snap.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So before we wind things down, we want to thank everybody for watching. We're not going to wind down yet. I'm going to leave you guys tonight before on the outro with a very cool Steve Rosen, Eddie Van Halen audio that I got waiting for
Nice.
you to
Yeah.
say bye with. But so here on the channel this Saturday, what's the date? The 22nd for this Saturday. We're gonna be doing Show Me Your Pick. We're gonna show you a bunch of guitar picks and talk all things guitar picks and rock memorabilia. We're gonna be talking about Yngwie Malmsteen. Yeah.
You forgot the
Yngwie
J.
J.
Yeah,
Yngwie
the
J.
J.
Malmsteen. Gotta have Yngwie J. Time for an audio or a video edit.
J or no J, that there will be no video edit, but we'll be talking all things Yngwie Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here. Come hang out. Saturday is our fun day. Yeah. No telling what's going to happen Saturday around here. Yeah.
Don't forget to bring your cream-colored strap.
Yeah, definitely not for kids on Saturday. No.
Never. No.
Yeah. And we'll actually be telling you guys a very cool Steve Rosen, Yngwie Malmsteen story
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was very cool.
on Saturday. Very,
Ooh.
yes. If you don't know this one, oh my goodness.
All
You
I'll
won't
say is
believe
knuckle
it. You
down.
will
For
not
knuckle
believe
down.
this story. Shh, don't tell them. Yeah.
Knuckle down.
All
It's
right,
gonna be a good
kids,
one.
I'm going to mute Keith's mic because he just insists on telling you the story.
No, I'm not telling you a thing. Just saying, get ready, boys and girls.
All right, guys. On your way out, leave a thumbs up on the video if you would. Thank you so much. Subscribe here if you're not already. We appreciate that. Thank you for that. Adam, thanks for being here, dude. Always great to see you, man.
No worries.
Always. We'll see you soon, I'm sure. Right back here at some point. But I'm looking forward to all of your stuff next week, man. Yours and Steve's coming out. Yep.
Yep. Look out for it on Steve's YouTube channel.
Right on.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
This is going to be a good one. Good week coming up, boys and girls.
That's it.
All
And
right.
thank you. And I got to say, Adam, thank you so much for everything you've been doing. And on top of that, with the file that you have accomplished, you know, the
Oh, yes.
library, the encyclopedia is off the rails.
Yes, I forgot
And
to talk about that. Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
still
that's
freaking ginormous.
and it's still updating as well. So again, anyone wanting a copy of the interactive Van Halen chronological PDF, let me know. Hook up Tony
Yep.
or Keith, myself, get your copy.
Mhm.
That is probably one of the biggest files I've ever seen. You know, just like chronologically on
Adam's
everything
YouTube
Van Halen.
page
Yeah.
link is down below, so you can find it down there, and you can get a hold of Adam, and he will send you that, and it's constantly being updated. So
Yes.
put it up on your browser and leave it, man, and watch how every time you click it, it's more stuff on there.
Mhm.
So yeah. And any cool, odd, obscure Van Halen stuff that you think nobody knows about, get in touch with Adam. Maybe you can contribute to this on his
Yeah.
site.
Like one of those business cards you just got there.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, but it is great to see what's there. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Keith, Adam, we're gonna bounce, hang out backstage. I'm serving
Yeah.
steak. No, I'm not.
Ooh.
I'm not. All right, guys. We love you.
All right.
Peace out. Thanks for watching.
Good.
Next Wednesday, Halenville Live, all things Van Halen next week. Yes, sirree. We gone.
Should we print any of this stuff? What do you think, Tony?